only then to realize, oh yeah, it's not the right one. Which is, I guess, why they've priced them closer to each other than they normally are. But the Pro does have a few things that you might not have realized. Obviously it has that one extra camera at 2x zoom, but it's also got a LiDAR depth sensor on the back. It's got twice the storage at 128 gigs, and while the display technology is the same, the Pro can get brighter, about 800 nits versus 625. Now, for me, this LiDAR sensor has been a bit of a surprise hit. Basically, it's a sensor that sits alongside your cameras and fires out infrared rays to figure out how far things are from you. It feeds the cameras an extra layer of detail about what they're capturing. But at the same time, when I was watching this launch event and I saw it get announced, it's also something that was tough for me to get excited for. Because I've probably tested 15 devices this year which all claim to have revolutionary depth sensors, and with not a single one of them has it actually brought anything tangibly new to the table. This is different. I mean, I still don't think there's a whole lot that this can do that this can't, but at the same time, the difference it makes to augmented reality is like immediately noticeable. Let me give you an example. So something I used to do a lot on my iPhone 11 Pro was something called AR Measure. You could literally check the dimensions of a room or the amount of space you have for a new bookshelf you want to buy without needing to take out a measuring tape. But the one thing that all these older iPhones lacked, and I guess this newer base iPhone 12 also lacks, is depth information. See, to know how far two things are apart from each other, you also kind of need to know how far they are from you. And so what these phones have done historically is kind of used all the sensors that they do have to guess. And so while I have loved the feature, there's a pretty wide margin of error. And sometimes when you're plotting lines, you realize when you look from another angle that they're not actually attached to the object you thought they were, and you've actually just kind of drawn lines in the middle of the air. But the 12 Pro knows exactly where everything is. I've been using AR Measure on this, and it can get the dimensions of objects correct to the nearest centimeter. I was playing Angry Birds AR this morning, and it's probably the first AR app that I've ever really lost myself in. Because of the depth sensor, the objects in the game have a sort of permanence. They stay in place the same way that objects in the real world do. Even as you move around them, you get closer or further away, and that makes the illusion more convincing. The whole thing that normally breaks AR for me is when objects are kind of jittering around trying to figure out what's where in your environment, but that doesn't happen as much here. So there's that, but LiDAR also helps when you're taking photos. It can help you to focus on things faster. You can take portrait shots of actually much more complex objects than past generations, and it nails the edge detection. Plus, you can also take portrait modes at night. There's actually quite a lot of new camera stuff on both of these phones, and I'm covering it all in a full camera comparison going live tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Now, the final two main things that these new iPhones have are the A14 Bionic chipsets and 5G. Now, as for the chipsets, if you benchmark them, it'll tell you they're about 15 to 20% faster than the last generation. In reality, I can't tell. And it's not because these are bad chips by any means, it's just because the A13 from last year already handled everything I've ever wanted to do on my phone. I'm not saying that everything here is like snap your fingers instant, but it's just that I don't think the chipset is a limiting factor anymore. I think to get things to the next level, we need a higher refresh rate display. We'd need things like faster storage speed. We need better Wi-Fi connection in our homes. We need it so that third-party applications were maybe co-optimized with Apple to run as well as the first-party applications. So obviously these phones can play every game you throw at them. I did think it was a little weird that in the official announcement of the phones, they talked about how it could run League of Legends, just because what it can actually play looks a lot better than that. And as for 5G, I kind of live in the middle of nowhere, so I don't get any here. But it does work in a town centre environment, and there is an interesting feature that means the phone will only connect to 5G when it needs it, and then it can turn itself off, which should save battery. So that's something I'm going to test properly before a full review. 5G is in very early stages here in the UK, but alongside introducing 5G, Apple also scaled up FaceTime to now work at 1080p, whether you're on 5G or Wi-Fi. So, what better way to test it than to call the man himself, who is also testing the iPhone right now, Marques Brownlee. So, Marques, you're testing the iPhone 12. Do you have any initial thoughts?
I like them. I've been waiting for this design forever, so that's my favorite thing. The interesting thing I'm thinking about is comparing these two, because iPhone people are going to buy iPhones, but they're probably going to cross-shop the 12 and the 12 Pro a little bit, and they're very similar phones.
Do you think the 12 will be a better selling phone than the Pro?
I think the 12 Pro will will sell better at first, and then the 12 will catch up and pass it.
Yeah.
So my bigger question is, how will the mini sell?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy though, because it's like completely new product category. It's like no one actually makes a top-end phone, especially with 5G, that's anything close to that small.
I hope it starts the trend.
So do you think this design is an upgrade?
I like it. So I prefer it a lot because it feels more secure to me, like grabbing a rectangular side versus like the curved size we just had on every other iPhone for a while. I think the grippiness is an upgrade. I think the design I like it a lot.
All right, amazing, man. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'll catch you in a bit. All right, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to enter the giveaway. I'll leave the link in the description, and I'll catch you tomorrow for the camera